Hello, I'm Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom, all part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. All the four major sports, all the teams taken care of all the time. Go check it out, Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Also, I have my show, my NHL Pearls of Wisdom show that you can see in about an hour's time. It's 1 till 3 Mountain, 3 to 5 Eastern. I'm going to get into every single team and gradings for free agency thus far. Primarily the free agent day, but we'll look into any other moves as well. I've already did 2 videos on it, and we finished off at the Panthers in a semi-alphabetical order. So in alphabetical order. So I'm getting very busy with the show and the channel and the network. So I'm going to try doing all of them here all at one time. However, I'm going to put all the teams and when they start in the comment section. So go down in the comment section if you have a favorite team and you want to hear the grading, and I go into a little bit of into the depth chart and all that kind of stuff like that. Go down there and check it out. The frolic will be endless. Woo! This is called the Perlo dance if you don't know. Do it every morning. Makes you feel good on your insides. All right. Subscribe. Do that sort of subscribe thingamajigger. We're trying to get to 1,000. You can be part of the community here as we grow into enormous levels, and I come see you all, and we all go to games together and Perlo dance. You don't have to Perlo dance, but I'm going to force you to. So I guess you kind of have to. All right, let's look at the all the teams here. Whoops, wrong one. There. Okay, Florida Panthers. My grade for the Florida Panthers is A. Not necessarily for what they did at free agency time, but for what they did overall. Carter Verhaeghe, 3 years at $4 million. For a guy who really just had one good season, it might be a little steep, but the season he had was amazing. And I think you just gotta do it. He had such a great season. He's such a great team guy. Is it possible he could slip points-wise or something like that? Sure, it's possible. But I think when a guy does something like he did last year, you got to at least pony him up for a few years. So I think it was a good move. But the big thing for me, the reason why I'm giving the Panthers an A is the Reinhart trade, which they made before the actual free agency, but I'm going to include it in here as an awesome thing that they did. Reinhart he's a point-a-game guy possibly now. The second half of last year with Buffalo, he just totally went off at center. I'm going to look at the depth chart a little bit here. There you see Verhaeghe. They have Reinhart on the right wing, which he can do. And I know Sam Bennett wants to play center really bad. That was one of the things he wanted when he left Calgary. But if they could convince him to move over to the wing just to be part of this beautiful line of Huberdeau, Reinhart, and Bennett, Reinhart is a first shot shooter from the center position. They are very hard to find. He's darn good at it. And you've got Jonathan Huberdeau passing you those pucks. Woo! Yeah, they did fantastic. Also signing Montour to $3.5 million for 3 years. It's okay. I still think they could use some help on their defense, to tell you the honest truth. But for that move alone, I'm going to give them an A. Let's go to the next one. Los Angeles Kings. I gave them a B. Philip Dano is a very interesting pickup at $5.5 million for 6 years. This is a Selke Trophy candidate for the last 2 years. Okay, I hear a lot of LA guys going that they don't like this move because they have lots of centers already. They didn't need centers, but guess what? Having a lot of centers gives you huge power, huge amount of power. Dano, they bring up that he didn't put up many points, but they didn't play him on the power play in Montreal. He did okay. He was like half a point. His 5-on-5 production was fantastic. The guy is a fantastic shutdown center. And without him there in Montreal, I'm afraid they're not going to be able to be what they were last year. I'm giving them a B. Athanasio was 2.7 because they didn't grab any wingers yet. I'm almost tempted to give an A here. But I need to see a little more about what they're doing, and we'll take a look at some of the things that they're going to. Gabriel Velarde has got to get signed next year. They have Jarrett Dolan, they have Byfield, they have Turcotte. These guys can be used to get your wingers. Okay, did they need Philip Dano? From what I understood, the reason why they got him was because they want Kopitar to focus more on offense for right now. Also, the reasoning for not having Dano is they don't believe this team is a cup contender. And I agree it's not, but it is a playoff contender and it's not far away. And as these kids as the Turcotte and Byfield move up, guys like Dano teach them how to play. So also, he does have a no movement clause. But you can use some of those centers to get yourself some wingers, and this will be a cup contender. I'm telling you right now. So I gave him a B, primarily because it's true that center wasn't what they needed, but I think in the long run it could turn out to be very good for them. Next, Minnesota Wild. I gave them a C-. Simply because they lost some, Suter, they lost Parise, and they brought in Goligoski, Kulikov, which doesn't really make up for Suter. Simple as that. They also lost Susi in the expansion draft, and it really doesn't make up for their defense. So it's kind of hard to give them anything over a C. I got a C-. Like, I thought about a C, but really they didn't get better. So I can't give them a C if they didn't get better. If we look at their depth, oh my God, I did it again. No, I didn't. Oh, sorry. I thought I didn't. I thought you couldn't see there for a second. I'm not going to stop this because I don't have time. Okay. If you look at their depth chart, they're looking solid. And also, they have all the cap space that they had lost because of Suter and Parise and all that kind of stuff like that. I actually don't think they did a bad job considering the situation that they're in and the direction that they're going. But it's really hard for me to give them any kind of a plus over a C for not having a better team. Now, for what they're wanting to do for their future and how they want to build their team, it's not bad. If they're out of it, they can, Kulikov and Goligoski, if they don't feel like they're a playoff contender, they can be traded off for picks. So they got some backup in that place. I just think that this team in general is not as good as they were last year, for sure. I still think that they are a playoff team possibly, but not as good as they were last year. The Montreal Canadiens is next. I got to give them a C- again, approaching a D. Mike Hoffman for 3 years at $4.5 million. You're going to be very upset about Mike Hoffman. He can score, but he's not like a huge scorer, and he can't do much else. He's a power play guy mostly. I think at 4.5, that's very rich. For 3 years, that's very rich. David Savard, 4 years at 3.5. He looked like he lost a step in Tampa Bay. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I think this is all the money here. They didn't get a deal by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, now we know that they lost Perry. They lost Dano. Does Hoffman replace Dano? No. Does anything on their roster replace what They lost in Dano, no, and I think that's going to be a big problem. Now, I think Kokaniemi will become a solid center. I mean, he's still only 21 years old. I really like the kid. He's probably going to replace Dano in the long run. It's just that bridge right now. I don't know if he's there yet. We got Toffoli, Suzuki, and Caulfield has a full year. That is a fantastic line. Okay, that could make up a little bit for what they lost. But with Weber being injured, Savard, I don't think Savard really replaces that. And they don't have all that much more to replace it. Alexander Romanov will get better at better. He's only 21 years old. Remember, he's only 21 years old. But I got to give him a C- because they're not better on paper than they were last year, for sure. Next, we have the Nashville Predators. D. I gave him a D because signing Michael Granlund for $5 million, I think is too much. I mean, he's a 0.5 point per game player, really. Yeah, he plays hard. He does a lot of good things, but I think $5 million is a little rich for 4 years. And the team didn't get any better. The team is the same as it was last year. They're gonna have to fight tooth and nail to make the playoffs. Puts them right in they're right in the middle of not either just make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, which basically puts them in poor drafting position. You don't want to be in the center like that. Signing David Rittich, I mean, maybe they see something in David Rittich that hasn't seen in the last little while, but he's not an upgrade over Rinne. So they're not as good as they were on paper last year. So, or pretty much the same, and they just barely made the playoffs last year. This is a bad spot to be in, I would really. And also, he said he wanted to work out a deal with Seattle to get rid of Duchesne or Johansson, and he never did. So he never made any cap space for himself, that he being Poyle. This was a failed offseason. He's the only D. I'm very gracious when I give. I should even go even lower than that. If there was an F, this would probably be it. I'm not even going to go into Nashville's. Numbers because it doesn't matter, their depth chart. New Jersey Devils, I'm giving them an A. Hamilton and Bernier are fantastic moves. Fitzgerald. I don't know why I always miss that up. Has not made a bad move so far. I will look at theirs. Picking up Nico Hischier. Picking up Hamilton and Graves that they picked up just before the expansion draft from Colorado were fantastic moves. Graves is one of the better shutdown defensemen in the league. He's grown into being that. He's only 26, and he's got $3 million for the next 2 years, which he's going to become a free agent. So I'd want to get him signed up as fast as possible. But Dougie Hamilton at $9 million, it's all the money. I'll give you that. But the guy's been a Selke Trophy candidate now a Norris Trophy candidate now for 2-3 years. There has been talk about issues with how he gets along with people in the room and all that kind of stuff like that. But I'm just going off on paper. This team is way better than it was last year. Way better on defense. No doubt about it. And they still got, and all their players that they have, if you look at their depth chart, are getting better next year. Also, Jonathan Bernier, boom. Like, wow. He's going to be pushing Blackwood. I'll tell you that right now. Blackwood is not going to be comfortable in the net with Jonathan Bernier there. I was really upset that Carolina didn't sign him to 2 years. I'm a kind of a Carolina fan. But they did. $4 million, and he has been ripping it up Detroit, and nobody has been noticing the last 3 years because Detroit's been so bad. So I think they absolutely crushed it. I'm giving them a full-on A, maybe even an A+ here. Next, New York Islanders. They didn't really do anything yet. I give them a C because they're not done. They've got a lot of work to do. I guess you could give a C minus because right on paper they're not better than they were last year, losing Eberle to expansion and all of that. But they're not even close to finish, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. The New York Rangers, I'm giving an A, but it has a lot to do with what they've done since then. Although signing Patrick Nemeth and Jared Tenorti was pretty much exactly what they need. 3 years, 2.5 for Nemeth as a 5.6 is a pretty decent deal. What they did do is they also traded for Barclay Goodrow. This is a bold freaking move, yo. I know that in the Rangers they didn't like it because he's a third line player, but he's a third line player with still has a lot of upside. He was a late bloomer at 28 years old. You want to learn how to work your bloody butt off every single day to be an NHLer and grow as an individual and as a player? Barclay Goodrow is it, man. Captain material of any team. It's hard to put a value on what he does, but he had 20 points in 55 games playing lower in the lineup in Tampa Bay. I say lower. He may end up playing lower here too. And then what they did was they went and gave a third for Ryan Reeves. Third might be a little high, but this guy brings, after, this is the big talk, right? Panarin had to jump on Wilson's back last year because he kind of rabbit punched Buchnevich when he was down. By the way, it was barely anything. Buchnevich, who I should also talk about here, they traded away Buchnevich for a second and Blais. Buchnevich whined and complained. I'm telling you, I understand his point production, but I don't think he fits the philosophy of what the Rangers want to be. And neither did Davidson and Gorton. They wanted to be a tough team. The owner just said, you know what, I don't like this. I want to be a tough team. I'm not buying your philosophy. When they came out and were complaining so hard about what to the league about what happened, and they ended up getting fined. And the owner's like, how come we had nobody to protect them? And poor Smith, by the way, who had to take on Wilson the next game. The guy should get a badge of honor for doing that. This was, I got a little old school in me. I like the analytics, no doubt about it, but I like this move. Barclay Goodrow's on the expensive side, but I think he's going to surprise you there. And getting Sammy Blais for Buchnevich, who I understand is a decent point producer. However, he played with some really good players to get that. I don't know if he's going to do that in San Jose. You're going to love this guy. You are absolutely going to love this guy. I love the way they changed the energy here. I'm giving them an A. They got some better defensive depth, also with Tenorti as well. Be surprised. He can play pretty good. We'll see what Nils Lundqvist does. But overall, I like this team. So, what's next? Ottawa Senators. I gave them... I gave them a B, and I only gave them a B. I'm not going to go over to their depth chart and all that on this one. I gave them a B for getting rid of Dodonov's contract. I thought that was absolutely fantastic for a team that has to play its on the low side of the salary cap. They gave it a shot, and it didn't work out, and they got rid of him like easy to Vegas. He didn't put up much points last year. I watched Ottawa. I watch all the teams a lot all year long. And Dodonov looked horrible. He looked absolutely horrible. Very inconsistent. Getting Del Zotto for $2 million at 2 years is whatever. It's I don't know. They must see it more in him than I do. That might be a little bit of a minus there. But I gave them a B for that. Philadelphia Flyers. I gave them a B. They were all over the board. Maybe a B plus. Nate Thompson at $800K. Like, he's sort of like a coach by this time. I don't think he's going to play a lot in the lineup. I liked Yandel at 900K. Even if you're just using him as a power play specialist that goes in and out of the lineup, by the way, that would mean that he doesn't get his games played record, I think. But we'll see how that happens. He's not very good defensively, but he's fantastic offensively. For 900K, I think it's great. Martin Jones at $2 million. This is where you got a down on here. He's just been really bad in San Jose. The guy can't find his game at all. Can't find his game at all. And you had Nabokov, one of the best. Let's put it this way. Every goaltender improved after Nabokov was hired for San Jose as a goalie coach, except for Jones. Now, apparently they have somebody there that worked with Jones in LA, and I can't remember his name, and they think that they're going to get the most out of him. But I'm suspect. And as of right now, I got to go poor decision making that. Now, they also made a whole lot of trades. These are just fillers. So we'll look at those too. Getting Ellis was absolutely fantastic. Let's just go right into their depth chart. They've got about $7 million in cap space to work with. Getting Ellis was fantastic. I think he'll be their best defenseman, better than Ivan Provorov. But it'll be close. It could be equal. Getting Rasmus Ristolainen, Ellis, they gave up. How come I can't remember his name? Myers. They gave up Myers and Patrick. They won that trade, I think, hands down. Rasmus Ristolainen, they gave up a lot. First, a whole bunch for Rasmus Ristolainen, who's making 5.4. He has been all over the place in Buffalo. He just needs to play the game simple, and if they can get him to play simple, he just might be worth it. He's a big guy. He's got high intensity. He just has to put it in the right places on the ice, and he could be okay. But he hasn't done it for a while. I think they gave up an awful lot, and he's still a restricted free agent, so he's going to have to get a qualifying offer, which is going to be in the $6-some million range. You better work out. That one was sort of a minus. That's why I kind of gave him a B, mostly because the Ellis move was so good. It overtakes a lot of the poor moves that might have happened here. Next. Pittsburgh Penguins, getting Brock McGinn at 2.7 for $4 million was good. I gave them a C minus, simply because this team they didn't get rid of Jari. I'm not going to go into their depth chart here. Not getting rid of Jari is, well, getting rid of. They're hoping he's better. I mean, that team can't make the playoffs with Jari. Can they? They keep on doing it with smoke and mirrors, but it's got to catch up to them eventually. I did like the Brock McGinn pickup, though. San Jose Sharks. I gave a C minus. I want to give them a plus, though, because Nick Bonino. I give the rest of the league a minus for not picking up Bonino at $2 million per. That was really. Let's see what their depth chart looks like here. Getting Bonino makes them possibly a playoff team next year, possibly. However, oh yes, the minus was, I forgot about that. James Reimer. They grabbed James Reimer as their goaltender to replace Jones. Yeah, he had some decent numbers here, but he was playing with Carolina with a fantastic defense. Ferrero, Burns, Knizov, I think is how it's said. Carlson, Simic, and Vlasic is not a great defense. And overall, their team defense has been poor. However, getting Nick Bonino may change that a lot. He has a real effect on a team defense from forwards. And I think that's really what they're doing here. Same as getting Andrew Cogliano. So I'm borderline C minus, but getting Aiden Hill from Arizona does not fill your number one spot, I don't believe. They obviously think that he's a lot better than I think, and you say, well, he's got pretty good numbers for being in Arizona, But Arizona played a very defensive game. They just couldn't score. I saw a guy who is pretty much what he is. I don't think they really improved all that much in goal. And that was really their biggest problem. So that's why I give them a C-. Seattle Kraken. I think it'll still surprise you here. I'm only giving them a B. And getting Jaden Schwartz at $5.5 million for 4 years. The thing about Jaden Schwartz is he's been slipping for the last 3 years and then finally went on the injured reserve. I'm afraid about his injuries for a 5-year 5.5. For his previous numbers before that, he's like a 60 to 70 point guy who plays his bag off. Hard working, plays the game the right way. But the question is he going to stay off the injured list? And I'm not sure about that. And I think 5 years at 5.5 is being maybe a little overly confident that that'll be the case. Hopefully they know that for some reason his injury problems are gone by the wayside and he does well for them. And then, of course, I'd give them a higher grade. Alexander Wenberg, 3 years at 4.5. They must see something in him that I don't. I see a very soft perimeter center that doesn't really, he's a great passer, awesome passer, great on the power play. But 4.5, we'll see. Philip Grubauer, 6 years at almost $6 million. We'll see what he does under a different defense. Seattle's defense is, and we're going to look at Seattle for sure because everybody's going to want to know what Seattle looks like, right? Seattle's defense, they made some interesting moves in free agency as well. Well, I'd have to include this in here. Adam Larson, $4 million till 2025. That's about all the money for Adam Larson. He's like an Edmondson. He got a little better at moving the puck out of the zone. It's all the money. I don't go crazy though. They have him. If you have Larson in your 1-2 spot as they do here, you might be a little disappointed. I think that's a little over his head. Jamie Alexiak, I think, was a very good move though. $4.6 million. He just keeps on getting better and better and better. Guy can skate 6'7", 255. He can bring the pain a bit. He doesn't do it as much as you would want from a guy from that size, but the way he covers the ice, I think he's better than Larson, and he got paid more than Larson, so that's good. Those were nice moves, but it goes, and Carson Soucy, getting him was fantastic. But overall, and you're going to have Gord here coming in to replace Wenberg. Wenberg will be the second line center, which is a better spot for him, but I wouldn't put him on the high end of second line centers in the league. Their overall depth is moderate. It's decent. It's okay. I'm afraid about the injuries here. As far as Grubauer is concerned, he put up fantastic numbers last year. I doubt with this defense, especially if they keep Vince Dunn, and especially if they get into injuries, I doubt with this defense he's going to be able to put those numbers up again. I doubt it very much. So 6 years at $6 million. I don't know what it is. He's also had injury problems at the most inopportune times in the playoffs and such. There's an injury question mark there. I don't know. For a team that's trying to kind of grow, I'm not sure this is the best signing in the world, but Francis is a brilliant dude. So he knows that you need good goaltending to build a team concept, defensive and offensive systems and all that kind of stuff like that. And I imagine that's primarily why he made this deal. Not to mention, you'll see it every year. If they feel they need to move on from him, there's usually somebody out there to take the contract. So it might be a fairly low risk, medium return type play. It's not bad. That's why I gave him a B. Next, St. Louis Blues. Doesn't have anything here, but like I said, they did get the Buchnevich. I am going to look at their depth chart. They did get Buchnevich. The whole Tarasenko situation that's going on there. he is likely going to be moved, so we'll see what they get back from him. Getting Buchnevich, like I keep on sounding like I'm slamming on the guy. He's a good offensive player. He had 48 points in 54 games last year, and he keeps on getting better. He's just very soft. I don't think overall does he replace Tarasenko. Probably not a healthy Tarasenko. And they just signed Brandon Saad. This was post that day for $4.5 million till 2026, which I'm fine with. He had a kind of a down year last year, but he usually is a 30-goal scorer. It's a serviceable top line. Is it spectacular? No. It's serviceable. Buchnevich will go up there. Robert Thomas will get his chance with Shen and Perron. Decent depth, but it doesn't blow my mind, this lineup, especially in the division they're in. They could have a very difficult time making the playoffs with these moves, especially since I'm not a big fan of their defense and they didn't do anything to fix it. So I'm giving the Blues a C. I don't think they really got any better. I'm almost on the minus part of it, but the Buchnevich move could end up being pretty darn good. They really needed to help this defense, and maybe they still will. I'm giving them a C. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. This may surprise you. I'm giving them a B, and people are going to be like, well, they lost Johnson, and they lost Gord to Seattle. But I think considering everything that they needed to do to make room, they gave up very little. They only gave a second up to get rid of Johnson. And they were trying to get rid of him all year for free. And they only ended up having to give up a second. I'd say that's not too shabby. Braden Point at $9.5 million. This is the reason why I'm giving him a B. They gave him 8 years. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and look at that contract. They gave him 8 years early, like didn't even bother waiting until that happened. At $9.5 million, he is 25 years old. He'll be 33 at the end of this contract. By the middle of this contract, this is going to look beautiful. This will be a $12 million a year guy in 3 years. He is one of the best defensive centers in the league, two-way forwards, one of the best shots in the league. His overall game is absolutely fantastic. I think the reason why I'm giving him such high grade is this contract. This contract was beautiful. They also went out and got, it's not on here, but they went out and got Perry from Montreal. I just love it for the fact that they did it. They beat Montreal and then steal Perry from Montreal. And I love it because Perry does that kind of stuff. It's like Perry loves to be the bad guy everywhere he goes. Now he's going to play Montreal, and he's going to be just as much of a pain in the butt to them as he is to anybody else that he ever plays. And they got Pierre-Edouard Bellemare for $1 million for 2 years. Energy Bunny, man, like they just know how to put it together here. Brossoit, like you say a lot about Stevie Yzerman. They lost Coleman and they lost Gaudreau. They bring in Pierre-Edouard Bellemare that doesn't bring everything that Gaudreau does, but he does bring enough for a team that's pretty deep. And then we saw what Corey Perry did for Montreal last year. Like, fantastic moves considering the cap restraints that you have. I love it. Now you'd say, well, they're not a better team than they were last year. Sometimes you just got to give a team props for working so good with your cap to be able to still be a great team. And they're still a great team. They still could win another cup. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I give them a C. And I think there's a lot of people out there that's going to give them a lot lower than that. However, I think they made some pretty good forward pieces. Should I give them a C? I forgot. You know what? Signing Mrazek, I can't give them a C. I'm changing it right now. I got to give them a D. Mrazek is not a good goaltender. Let's look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to show you something about Mrazek here. Mrazek played in front of an incredible defense last year. And Mrazek played in front of a credible defense for Carolina last year. And yes, he put up, in 12 games, he put up 2.06 and a .923. Why 12 games? Why? Because he was injured. It seems to be common with him. The year before that, in 2019-20, he played in front of that very same defense and put 2.69 and a .905. I'm telling you, those are bad numbers, man. I still think Carolina made a big mistake not signing Bernier when they had him in their hands. Like, freaking unbelievable. The numbers he would have put up. I'm really worried for Toronto fans about them getting Mrazek and Campbell. And let's put it this way. If they thought Campbell could be the guy, they wouldn't have did what they did. They themselves don't think Campbell is the guy. So, yeah, I got to give him a D. But there was some good moves here, and Bunting was one of them. I really liked Michael Bunting last year in Arizona. The question is going to be, can he handle, he's 5'11", 180, can he do it over a 80-game season? He's been in the AHL most of his career. He's a late bloomer. However, he bloomed really well. He had 13 points in 21 games last year for Arizona, and he's just an energy bunny guy. I think they're going to try him up there in Hyman's spot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he works out fairly well. We'll see. But I like the move. I thought it was a good depth move by Toronto, and David Kampf is actually a really good third-line center. He's just not going to bring you a lot of offense, but defensively he plays very well. So for a team that's just trying to scrape together some players to have the big guys win for them, I think they did all right that way. But getting Mrazek pretty much ruined it for me anyways. We'll see if I'm wrong. Could be wrong. You never know, but I don't think I am. Vancouver Canucks, I gave a C+. Mostly for the trade, actually, before this. Getting Garland and Larson for a whole bunch of picks, and they got rid of Eriksson. Not necessarily for Larson, that's a long contract, but for getting Garland, I think Garland and signing him up for $5 million could end up rocking it in Vancouver and making that look really good. Brandon Sutter, whatever. Like, these are Justin Dowling fits a role down there. Travis Hamonic fits a role of $3 million for 2 years. I think Tucker Pullman for 4 years at 2.5 is a little cray-cray. He might be a seventh guy at best. He's not a very good skater. I don't like that signing. And then Luke Shen at 850. They just basically filled out their roster. Yaroslav Halak at 1.5 and 1.5 in performance bonuses is okay. We'll see how he does. He's not going to have to play a lot. So actually I like it because he won't have to play a lot. Demko is probably going to save Vancouver's season anyways this year. Demko is excellent. Let's look at their depth chart to see how these moves affect their roster. Oh yeah, I forgot about the trade for Dickinson in Dallas for a third-line center. What did I give them? A C+. That's one of the reasons why I gave a plus. Garland could end up just rocking and making this into a much higher than a C+, like a B+. And Ekman Larson could get a new life in Vancouver. And if he does, he's only 30 years old. He gets his legs back. He feels great. He was playing in a system in Arizona that was way defensive. He's going to have a much more offensive system here. This could end up looking like a B+. There's risk involved. Benning took a risk, and it's not bad. But on paper right now, going by what everybody has done, I don't think they're that much better, but they are a little bit better. Next, Vegas Golden Knights. I just love the way these guys just go all out for everything and try to make themselves into a cup contender every year. They're capped out like usual. I didn't even talk about the cap in these videos. This is just more or less what they picked up. I gave them a B+, And Matthias Janmark, 1 year, $2 million, great contract. He can play everywhere in your lineup. Great utility player. Alec Martinez, three years at $5 million. You could almost say he was their best defenseman last year, except for possibly Theodore. They had to bring him back. He loved Vegas. I think it's a great deal. Good deal. Bringing in Laurent Brossoit to be with Lehner, what awesome! This guy, this is great talent identification. Laurent Brossoit has been stuck behind Hellebuck for a few years now, and he's enjoyed it, never complained. But when given the opportunity, he's played really well. And if Lehner gets hurt, Brossoit can hold the fort, not too shabby for a while. At $2.3 million for 2 years, I think it's great. I think it's a good deal. I think it's a very good deal. I think Brossoit might even be one of those late bloomer possible #1 goaltenders somewhere eventually. Let's look at Vegas's depth chart. We'll see what those deals did for them. Oh, that's right. I had to give them a minus for picking up Dadonov. What did I give them? A B plus? Okay, I got to give them a B because picking up Dadonov I don't think was a very good move. And they actually gave up something for them too, like picks or something like that. I don't understand that move. He looked terrible last year. However, look what they did with guys like William Karlsson, Chandler Stevenson. All of a sudden, there's an energy about that team that just seems to make players better. So he might get right into that lineup and play like a bat out of hell. Also, I'm pretty sure they're looking at possibly moving Riley Smith to get more center depth. But they didn't fix their #1 center line, their first line center position, which is what a lot of people are going to be like, well, they didn't get anything that they needed because they didn't go their first line center. But they got Patrick Nolan, Howden from the Rangers, and they're going to try to make Patrick Nolan was supposed to be a lot better than he is. They're going to try to make him into the center that everybody always thought they could be. And we've seen where they've done some pretty incredible stuff with some guys like Patrick Nolan. So it might work out for them. I agree. I gave them, but they also set themselves up with that they can trade one of their wingers and get a #1 center. So it's not done yet. Giving them a B plus, That's it. Okay, let's go to the Winnipeg Jets. I'm skipping Washington. They signed Ovi. Give them a C. They don't get any better. They don't get any worse. Just maybe even get a little bit worse because they're getting older. That's all I can say about that. Winnipeg Jets, nothing here in free agency, but they made some moves in trades around that time that makes me give them a B. Getting Brendan Dillon from the Washington Capitals was a steep price, 2 second-round picks. They have a bugger of a time getting people to play in Winnipeg, though. Just like the Edmonton Oilers, they usually have to pay a little more to get guys to come to play in the Winnipeg. It's cold. It's not the sexiest city in the world. It's in Canada where taxes are a little high. They got a lot of things going against them trying to pick up players. The most interesting thing here, though, is picking up Nate Schmidt, who just absolutely did not work in Vancouver at all. He's getting paid almost $6 million for the next 5 years, and the reason why till 2025. The reason why I'm saying that is I liked what he did in Vegas, and then he kind of fell off of favor in Vegas, and he goes to Vancouver, falls out of favor there. I'm a little concerned, but it seems to me that the Winnipeg Jets are able to turn defensemen into better players. They're sort of like the LA Kings. They did it with Forbert last year. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and say that Nate Schmidt's going to work really well for them in the lineup. They got a couple beasts. Nobody's under 6 feet, but everybody is 6 feet. It's an interesting defense core, but are they better on paper than they were last year? I have to say yes, because of their defense. We'll see as far as their offense. I can't remember now who they lost down here in their bottom pairing. Oh yeah, it was Appleton. That was a fair size loss, but they had Christian Vesalainen in the lead waiting in the wings, and he's going to get his shot. So I'm giving him a B, and that's my full 42. That's all I have to give today, boys and girls. Like I said, go down into the comment section. I'll have it what every team and where you can find them. Hit the subscribe. I got to get ready to go on my show now. The NHL Pearl of Wisdom show. Be watching for it. There's much frolic there, and you'll enjoy it. Have a great day. Okay, bye.